I'm walking down the northern slope of Beacon Hill, in the neighborhood that blacks in Boston's 18th and 19th century called home. Today, this is one of the most exclusive and expensive areas in the country. Hello, I'm Harper, and I'm on a journey to explore this Boston hidden history.
Join Hill Harper as he explores America's journey from slavery to freedom. The story that begins with the settlement of the English in North America and the hidden heroes, people of African descent.
Is this literally what we're looking at, what it looked like back then? Or is this kind of a cooler, more modern version? Like, is this literally where he walked? These are the exact floors where Frederick Douglass actually walked?
These are the same floors.
The exact same floors?
Yes, the exact same floors, the exact same halls, the exact same sounds that you're hearing, the windows, all of these things. This is the oldest extant black church building still standing in the United States. So it's built in 1806. This is really, you're really walking in history. There's been renovation on the building, of course, but in terms of the floorboards, in terms of the pulpit, in terms of the pews that you see and the acoustics in here, this is what was here when African American people were here in the 19th century.
The first abolitionists whose centuries-long fight for freedom and equality intensified during the antebellum and Civil War years in Boston, and accelerated with the Emancipation Proclamation and 13th Amendment. Harper meets acclaimed historians who fill in missing pages of the American narrative. Dr. Carrie Greenidge, author of Boston Abolitionists.
Some people have had this mistaken idea that abolitionists were white people who were out to rescue and save enslaved African Americans. And really, abolition comes from enslaved people themselves who free themselves. It comes from black people who lived in places like Boston.
Dr. Kelly Carter Jackson, author of Force and Freedom, Black Abolitionists and the Politics of Violence.
One of the favorite stories I love telling about Lewis Hayden is the kegs of gunpowder that he allegedly kept in his home, so that when slave catchers, approached his doorway looking for fugitive slaves, the idea was you can leave in peace or you can leave in pieces. And I think, and he meant when he said no one was willing to call his bluff, but it just shows how committed he was to using force and even deadly force and violence to make sure that black people found their freedom.
And Dr. Annette Gordon Reed, author of On Juneteenth.
The end of chattel slavery was important, and the end of it with the efforts of black soldiers too. I mean, that's the other thing about it, that the Union Army, the United States Army, was able to be successful with the infusion of blacks who were fighting for their rights. So to have this day come after the defeat, the total surrender of the Confederate Army, I think it's a good way to commemorate that.
The abolition of slavery in the United States was not just one day. It was a long process, centuries in the making. Jubilee, Juneteenth, and the 13th tells the amazing and little-known stories of Boston's 18th and 19th century black freedom fighters who, along with their white allies, put Boston at the epicenter for much of the abolitionist activity that changed the course of American history.
We need to know their names, and we need to tell their stories.
Jubilee, Juneteenth, and the 13th is a production of the Museum of African American History, Boston and Nantucket, with funding provided by Liberty Mutual Foundation, Massachusetts General Hospital, and the Harvard University Office for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging.